And I've been trying to find this thing called happiness ever since my youth. But it seems since birth I was just born with 3 strikes against my soul. And I'm trying not to be sentenced into eternal fire after existing in a world that I consider being way too cold. Now people say in order for me to write a poem like this, I'm way too bold. See, never mind the fact that once upon a time black people were sold, or a muscle-bound nigga was just worth his weight in gold. But people don't understand that I just can't write about a field full of lilies from all them stories I was told.
Let me tell you about Will the Real One Bell. When the poets were in workshop, they'll tell you, you go to workshop, he would throw keys at the stage. You know what I mean? And make really weird noises and just do silly things, because you have to be able to keep going. No matter what's going on in the room, in the audience, in the world, you have to be able to keep going, and that translates everywhere. If we're talking as a poet, it's 5 or 5,000. You need to give that same energy and you need to give them the show. You're representing yourself, you are your brand, so you need to show up and show out, and the show must go on. At the end of the day, it's about the energy in the room, and if you can keep the energy in the room, then you're good.
Yes. Y'all put your hands together, show some love for Will the Real One. Come say
Willie Lee Bell Jr. was my brother. Growing up, he was funny. He played for Miami Edison Senior High. He played basketball. He struggled far as in school, like far as he had to go to night school. But I think it was more for him is not wanting to pay attention. It wasn't because he was bad or fighting or stuff like that. I want to say he graduated in June. Will must have left the end of the year. When he was in the military, he was introduced to crack. He had done so many things, like he stole all my jewelry, all my purses. He stole all my brother's shoes. The breaking point of the episode for me was someone came to me, come, your brother finna shoot your brother. And I go taking off, running down the street in the alley. And I remember my brother Calvin, he had a gun to Will's face, and he was like, he's gonna kill him because Will stole all his stuff. And I remember grabbing the gun and putting it down in my face. And I said, if you shoot my brother, you gotta shoot me. When Will went to jail, that's when Will began to write, which was needed, because that's where the change started, you know? When the poetry started coming into play, he just wanted to own his own poetry lounge.
It was a church, it was a battleground, it was a sanctuary, it was all of those things. He gave his all to it. And when I say all, I mean man sold his jewelry. And I think that now I'm more so comfortable with talking about it and saying the things aloud, because Will's whole thing was give them the show.
Because you could come, if you got the money to get in, you could still get in, in the poetry. It wasn't about money for him.
There are a lot of things that people don't know that we did to make sure that they had somewhere to come. Whether you had just started writing poetry, or whether you have been doing it for years, you were safe in the Literary Café. It was love.
It was an outlet for artists of all walks of life, whether you were a painter or a musician.
If you were an artist and expressed your way in any way, Will was gonna find something for you to do at the cafe. We had somebody with a harp. I mean, a full harp, not a baby harp. Like, we had to clear space for sis to roll her harp into the venue, let her perform, and then clear space or leave it set up, because once it was in there, sis, we can't move all these tables and chairs now. You gotta stay all night and let your harp just stand there and be pretty.
One of my fondest memories of Will was that one night it was a poetry night, and it was raining, pouring. And without even thinking about it, he grabbed the umbrella and he handed me an umbrella. And it was like, yo, let's go out there and, help these young ladies inside. And it wasn't because it was his poetry night. It was because that was what we were supposed to do as men.
A lot of people don't know that, he didn't pay for electricity for like 6 to 8 months. And one of many talents that Will had, he knew how to finesse certain things, so he was able to finesse the lights.
Will wanted that venue to be operational 7 days a week. He gave his all to it.
I would allow him to move with me so he can just focus on, the cafe.
I remember one time we didn't have water either, running water just for people to use the bathroom and flush the toilet. This guy had like one of the contraptions where you're able to get the sewer water. I'm like, yo, dude, where the hell do you get this from? Like, nobody has this shit in Miami.
You give the show, You make it happen, you do what you gotta do, and you sort out the rest afterwards.
Will came outside, apparently to smoke a cigarette. A subject exited a vehicle, walked over to him, shot him multiple times.
And I'm just hearing like these loud firecrackers. So I didn't think anything of it, and then I just hearing like glass shattering. All I kept hearing like, where's Will, where's Will? 15 minutes after, concluded with the night, that's when pretty much everyone's life just changed. So I'm looking around to see, where he could possibly be or whatever. So as soon as I started walking towards my car and then past his car, that's when I see his, body. I didn't bother, checking a pulse. I pretty much knew the moment I saw him, he was no longer here.
When you think about good people who are taken from us, and I know it's fucked up to say, but it's like there's so many terrible people walking this earth, and why the good ones?
I was on autopilot pretty much for 8 months after it happened. I didn't know I didn't, talk to a therapist. I didn't really talk to a lot of people about it. They asked me about it, and I was here, but I wasn't here.
I didn't know him as well as probably the majority of the Literary Café community. But he meant a lot to me. Like, he encouraged me so much. Like, he knew I lived in Broward, so when I would come out, he would always text me and make sure I made it home. Like, he meant a lot to me, and I really miss him.
I looked at that poem when he first said it. It sounded like he's trying to, save his heroes. But that was my brother in incidents throughout life, saving his family. That's the type of guy he was. He would try to help, So I look at it as him saving his family.
I was just floored, project what he was trying to articulate as far as like all the systemic racism, what it's like being a black man in America. It was just riveting, and it was motivating, it was moving.
So I Run is the only poem that I have ever heard that I wish I wrote.
What that poem is and what it's speaking to, and him going through all of these spaces to save all of these people who were so dedicated to us.
In the way that he expressed it, Like, I'm in the Underground Railroad side by side with Harriet Tubman as she decides whether to go left or right.
Or right tonight. And as the barking dogs approach from the south, I rub the clothes of 1,000 slaves on my body, and I hand her a flashlight. And I run.
Which makes it scary, you speaking stuff. And for real, that happened to him, like, pretty much the same way. I mean, if you think about it. It just was nobody was able to jump in the way and save him.
I would hate for his legacy to just go untouched, for him not to be recognized for all the great things he's done.
We have to speak his name. We have to do the things that we know he would have wanted us to do and things that he saw in us for us to do. That is how we promote the legacy of the Literary Café, of Will, the real one. We show up and we show out the way he taught us to.
He was just a great guy overall. I hope that, once this film is released, people can actually go back and start looking at all of his YouTube videos and seeing like how much of an impact he actually had.
Keep that piece of ourselves that Will has touched. When we speak of him and we speak his name, it's all positive and, and all goodness. And refer people to his work, because the brother was bad.
The way to keep his legacy alive, I think, is to honor him on, like the day he passed. Keep in mind, he passed on Memorial Day weekend. If you don't think of him yourself or speak to somebody that knew him, it's like he never was here.
If you have information that will help us solve this case, tell me what we have to do to get you to tell us. It's that important. You took away somebody from this community that was making a positive impact, not just in his own life, but when you have so many people, not just from his family, people who didn't even know him but knew of him, saying those things, we'll work something out.
He made you know that You have to be open to people and what they may have for you at any given time. Be open. Be ready. Yeah, that's Will. That's what he had to teach.
He told me never be scared to put your art anywhere. No matter what stage it is, what arena, just do your art. It didn't matter.
He's wise in the sense that he realized that, hey, the way that we change things is we gotta reach the youth, and we have to cultivate them through education.
To look at him and to think you can understand everything that he was to people and everything that he had inside was impossible. You could never do that just by looking at him.
He was passionate about his craft and about the art of spoken word, but he wanted not only for himself to be great, but for the other people and poets in the community to also be great.
People just knew that there was nothing but pure truth. Hone the craft, learn the craft, memorize your poems. You know, come on stage and be explosive, like we say, you know, that's what it's saying, humble yet explosive, you know?
It didn't matter how many people was in the room. If it was one person, you were supposed to put on the same show if it was 1 million people. And that, it shows so much humbleness and drive to really, you know, be an artist, to be the poem. Again, it's really hard to put in words the actions that he did. You know, he was it.
As I travel backwards through time, I search to rescue all my heroes. And I find myself in the Underground Railroad, standing side by side with Harriet Tubman to see the sides whether to go left or right tonight. And as the bark and doles approach from the south, I rub the clothes of 1,000 slaves on my body and I hand her a flashlight. And I run. I run till I get to southern Mississippi in the mid-1950s, and I'm standing on the front porch of Emmett Till's house. Just before 2 a.m. as they drag him from his bed. Then all of a sudden, instead of Emmett being found dead, they were 4 decapitated white heads, and I'm standing there drenched in blood and the dog.